Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. It's a playoff edition, everybody, preparing now for the NFL Wildcard weekend. The Philadelphia Eagles will take on the Green Bay Packers at 4:30 on Sunday, John. I think a favorable time for this team. How you doing on this Tuesday edition, Johnny Mac?
Doing well. Yeah, finally the playoffs are here. Things ramp up. It's like NCAA tournament football, one and done. So everything on the line every week. And that makes for a compelling product typically. Should be a good game. I think the highest profile game of the weekend, to be honest.
Yep, no doubt about it. Going to be a good game this weekend. Packers come down with some bad injury news, John, yesterday. Kind of what we suspected from the Sunday game, but Christian Watson did. It is feared that he tore his ACL, so he will not be in this game. John, I think that's a big loss for this team. He's their deep threat. He's the guy that spreads the field for them. They're going to have to play a different style of offense without Christian Watson in this game.
Well, he's definitely a deep threat, not a volume guy, and has had significant injuries now. They're used to playing without him. You never want to see somebody go down with a torn ACL, and it's probably worse than that. There's probably additional damage as well. So difficult injury, especially for a guy who averages over 21 yards a catch. So he can run past anybody. But he's only got 29 catches on the season. He's not a big volume part of their offense.
Oh, is that all he has? 29 catches?
Yeah, he's not a big volume part of their offense. The guys who, the Jaden Reed is their best receiver. Although I expected him to take a big step forward this year as far as being one of the top receivers in football. He didn't really do that, but he's a playmaking safety. Then we'll see a playmaking wide receiver, but then we'll see, they're very deep at the position. Even if you get down to Bo Melton, it's a guy who can make plays. So, but yeah, Watson is a threat, no doubt about it when he's out there. But he's not a volume guy. So I think people who don't understand that may have overblown it, but you never want to lose any player who's a part of your regular rotation, and he certainly is.
John, a necessary evil that we have to check off the box for the people checking in today, for people looking to be updated on the playoff game. John, there's fear in the air on Jalen Hurts. Please clarify that he will be okay. I will say this, John. It is a little long for it to be intentional. I know he can't get out of the protocol until they practice, but you talked about last week them potentially manipulating a little bit. It feels a little long to me to want to do this intentionally or at least manipulate it this long. Almost 3 weeks in the protocol before a playoff game doesn't seem like something an organization would want. Do you think it was by necessity or manipulation? I'm with you in that. I'm very positive he's going to play the game, but what do you think about the time on the protocol? It has been a bit.
No, I think it's complete manipulation. I think if the Eagles did not beat the Cowboys, he would have played, but he didn't have to, obviously. So it's situation. He wasn't going to get through the protocol for the Cowboys game. So, if you lose that game and you still have to clinch the NFC East, it would have been very similar to 2022. He would have came back. They win the game, obviously. They won the game, obviously. Anyway, but that would have happened. And because they clinched everything, then they could say, all right, we're just going to rest him. And Nick, for the first time, said, we basically created our own bye week. We didn't get it. It's disappointing, but that's the term he used for the first time yesterday. We created our own bye week by being able to beat the Cowboys, locked in to number 2. Now they hope to have the ability to go to the number 1, but when that didn't shake out the way they wanted, they just kicked it down the road another week. So look, I'm not a neurologist. I suppose there's a 1% chance it's legitimate. I would not panic until Wednesday or Thursday, depending on if Wednesday's a walkthrough. Right now, it's not scheduled to be, but the Eagles have moved that a number of times and shifted to a walkthrough. So you'll get an estimate at the bare minimum. You'll get an estimated injury report on Wednesday. If they're actually practicing on Wednesday, which is currently scheduled, you'll get a real injury report. And if he's not out there, feel free, panic. I'm going to say 99% he's out there.
Well, would you agree if he's not out there Wednesday, it is time to panic? That would be well past manipulation.
If it's a walkthrough, no. If it's real practice, yes. That's what I said. If it's a walkthrough, no. Then you kick it back a day. If it's real practice, which it's currently scheduled to be, yeah, yes. But he's going to be out there.
Looking forward to getting those updates so everybody can relax. So, John, what do you think about the Russ situation and the Russ conversation? I mean, I know you said you don't put much stock into it a couple of days ago here on Birds 365, but is that lingering at all for you? Obviously, I think this game's going to come down to what quarterback plays better, and at least in my opinion. Both have good rushing games, both have solid defenses, both have good interior play, both are good on the lines and stuff in the trenches. So I think it comes down to Jordan Love versus Jalen Hurts. Who plays better? Who elevates their offense more? And I'm not concerned about it, but it's definitely something I'm looking out for. Jalen Hurts coming into this game rusty. What say you?
No, I do not like when people boil things down to quarterback versus quarterback. If that were the case, the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. There are a lot of other people that contribute on the field. What a quarterback can do is lose a game for you by playing poorly. You saw that on Sunday night. They can lose a game for you. They need help to win a game. And that's everybody from Patrick Mahomes on down. And obviously, the better you are, the greater margin of error you give your particular team. So, one, I'm never going to boil down anything to quarterback versus quarterback. As far as the Russ point, I mean, you saw it with Dallas Goedert. He's been out for a month. Did he look rusty? Maybe a little bit, but he got over it pretty quickly.
Isn't that part of the reason they wanted to get him out there? Goddard?
Well, they wanted to get him some work, and he got it. That's what I'm saying. So if Jalen Hurts is rusty, it'll be for half a quarter, maybe a quarter, and then you get into the flow of the game. Yeah. And the thought process has been, this has been a slow starting team anyway.
Yeah, it has.
Now you don't want to be, but I think that has more to do with how they approach the game and the game plan. Similar to Green Bay, I said those two teams are very. They have a commonality in that standpoint, which is strange to me because they have so many offensive-minded people. Like Nick Serianni and Kellen Moore and Matt Lafleur know you have to get your quarterback in a rhythm. I've said this since, a couple weeks. I've been saying this. They all know this. So why aren't they doing it? It's bizarre to me. It really is. So, probably the unintended consequence of having really good running backs for both teams. And again, unintended consequence means unintended consequence. Something happens, something else happens. And I think you can look at both of these teams and say, to use the Eagles example, when Saquon's not out there and they're playing with Tanner McKee, they go right to trying to get him in a rhythm.
Right.
It's bizarre.
I don't know why they don't do that for Jalen Hurts.
I don't know either. They did it in one game.
It's like Kellen Moore needing to run makes him forget how to be an offensive coordinator at times. Like, what the hell, dude? common
Yeah, well,
knowledge.
I think it's, when you're that successful, you say, all right, we're going to lean back on this, and then it has an impact on other things.
Right.
So,
Talk to me about Jordan Love, John. Where are you on him? I mean, he's one of those quarterbacks that's kind of tough to gauge. At times, you see how talented he is, and then other times he's just a streaky player. He's not great all the time, but I will say he does show flashes. What do you think of him coming into this matchup, and how do you think the Eagles are going to try and prepare to defend him? By the way, a little weird coming off that elbow injury. They kind of got caught in a lie. Not a lie, but the coach after the game said, "Oh, Jordan Love could have came back into the game," and then they spoke to Jordan, and he's like, "Yeah, it still was weird all through the end of the game. Like I never improved the feeling in my elbow. I'm not saying he couldn't have come back in, but certainly something was lingering there. I'm not sure if it was just a funny bone, but how do you assess Jordan Love coming into this game?"
yeah, I don't know what I legitimately don't know what they were trying to accomplish in that game, the Packers, in Week 18. It's like I can't imagine you'd be trying to manipulating to play the Eagles. So, and ultimately it didn't even matter because Washington came back to win. But
Yeah, right.
I don't understand what they were trying to do, to be honest. But I'm not the biggest Matt Lafleur fan in the world, so I'm not sure he knows what they were trying to do. But yeah, I think streaky is a good word. Very streaky player. And when he gets hot, hold your head. And yeah, I think that's a good word to describe him. And there's been so many times this year when they've fallen behind and they come back because he gets in a rhythm. So I don't know if if I'm an Eagles fan, my biggest fear this week is Matt LaFleur wakes up and says, "You know what? Let's try to get him in a rhythm right away."
Right.
But that hasn't been the case. So, it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles jump out to the 26 lead, 23 lead, and then here come the Packers. Wouldn't surprise me if the game goes like that even a little bit, because that's how they played this season.
Yeah, we'll see what they can do. John, what do you think about that injury with Jordan? You think he's good? I thought that was a weird injury, where you like almost lose feeling in your throwing hand. I don't know if it was the funny bone or if we heard anything more about that. I didn't see it, but what do you think about that injury for Jordan Love?
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows, obviously, for the same reason as you see with injuries here. I always point to Dr. Chow, who's only doing things video. He called it a funny bone injury. We've all had the funny bone hit. It is a weird feeling, but certainly wouldn't be an issue a week later. So if that's what it is, he's going to be fine. If it's something else, which it could be, then you might have a big problem. So, it's part of the. I will say this: going into this game with everybody talking about Jalen Hurts and the concussion protocol,
Right.
if it shakes out the way I think it's going to shake out, it shouldn't be a concern at all. In this case, overall, much healthier than the Packers, so that's a positive as well. And if they do have to play Malik Willis, then they're completely one-dimensional. And that would be probably an easy time of it for the Eagles.
Yeah, we'll see. What's the approach to defending Jordan Love, John? I think you mentioned yesterday zone is the right defense for it, but just knocking him off his game. What when you look at him as a player and you think about this Eagles defense and some of their strengths, who are the key defenders you want to see in this game have a big game in order for the Eagles to get the win in this game?
Well, I think it's a big Jalen Carter game. I've said that. The weakness of the Packers up front is the center and one of the two guards. You know, uh, uh, Josh Myers and Sean Ryan can be had. I think certainly Josh Myers. The key is Elgin Jenkins. He's a really good player. Zach Tom's a really good player. but right in the middle there, I think he can create some. And look, and I apologize because my voice is still crappy from my cold, by the way. So I appreciate people being patient with that. But when you talk about any quarterback, the easiest way to get to him is pressure up the middle, right in their face. And I think the Eagles have an opportunity to do that. And then Jordan Love's got a little Brett Favre in him. He's going to take some chances. So when you talk about a playmaker like CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's hot and the turnovers are starting to come, there's going to be a couple overthrows, and maybe you need to make sure you're in a position to take advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, and he spreads the football around. So, it might be Reed, it might be Kraft, it might be Dobbs, it might be Wicks.
All right.
Now they have Luke Musgrave back. They'll use the backs coming out of the backfield. He'll spread the football around. Might be Bo Melton stepping up. He will spread the football around. So big communication game, which has been a strength for the Eagles defense this year. And they need to keep it up.
No doubt about it. John, we're going to continue to break down this game. We got plenty of time to do that. We'll have some more guests throughout the week to break down the game. I do want to ask you a little bit about some of the NFL news, John, that came out yesterday. It was a Black Monday yesterday. Several coaches fired. Anything stick out to you, John, worth talking about here on Birds 365? Obviously, Gerard Mayo got let go in the first year. I'm not sure what you think of something like that, whether that was too quick, even though, you listen to a Patriot fan and they're like, well, if you watch the Patriots, he was out coached all year. That doesn't mean I think he should have been fired, but your thoughts on any of the Black Monday firings?
You see it, I think, more with Cincinnati firing Lou Anamuro, who's a really good defensive coordinator. The 49ers fired their special teams coordinator. It's like, and I talk about it in Philadelphia all the time, and like coming off last year, everybody's got to have a scapegoat. If you don't reach your expectations, somebody's got to pay for it, even if you're keeping the head coach. And
in the case of the Jags, Trent Baalke skates free and lets Doug Peterson get the scapegoat.
Yeah. Well, that's a bizarre situation. But yeah, the Jags aren't the greatest organization in the world. And now we're in Kellen Moore got his first interview request. And people are going to lose their mind. We're in that stage of the offseason. Oh, he's got to focus on the Eagles. It happens every year. What is a surprise?
Right.
It's been this way forever. They actually tweaked the rules a little bit. Now he can't interview until after the Packers game. Obviously, if they lose, he could have interviewed anyway. But even if they win, he can interview after the Packers game if he wants to. Maybe he doesn't want to go to New Orleans.
Right.
So he could turn it down, but I doubt it. It's just part of the process, and I wouldn't lose sleep over that. Although I know, because I got so many quotes about it. I mean, yeah, every year it's the same thing. How can they let guys interview?
Well, I think you can say it's going to happen regardless of what people say. I think you can still dislike the process.
You can dislike the rule.
I think it's going to be a factor in the playoffs. I mean, look at the Lions. How many interviews are?
Oh my God! Yeah, I was just about to bring them up. Everybody.
I mean,
everybody.
Is that going to be a factor for them? I think it really could be a factor for the Lions, who are going to be dealing with probably every team that's interviewing, asking for both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect them one bit.
Maybe it's the bad taste in my mouth from the 2022 Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, these are human beings. They're not sitting 24/7 thinking about the next opponent. They go to work. They do their work. They go home. There's limitations. They have to interview virtually. There is opportunity. They might have to shovel snow in Detroit. They might have to fix their damn heater, like in South Jersey. Everybody, they're human beings. This is another part of being a human being. And they're taking a job interview for a promotion, and they will give that their just due. The smart ones are already prepared. They already have it worked out. The legendary Andy Reid story of, his binders, and he had his whole coaching staff already put together. Ben Johnson has been going. He could have had a job last year. He certainly has all his ducks in a row. And if he doesn't, he shouldn't be a head coach. Yeah, it's one of the most overrated things ever. They will get their work done. Kellen Moore will get his work done for the Philadelphia Eagles if he decides to take the interview. And I think he will. I don't think he's going to get the job, but I think he'll take the interview, and it will not affect the Eagles at all.
Yeah. We will see what happens there. How about the Giants, John, bringing back Dable and Joe Shane? All that talk about all the Saquon stuff all year, and they're coming back. I think it's a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to call for people to be fired just because I think it's, I think the way that the league that does business is, as I said, you have to scapegoat somebody. Or in the case of the New York Giants, you don't. Now they'll fire a bunch of assistants and lower level people. So there will be scapegoats. But, yeah, I mean, they haven't done a good job, So, but John Mara's crossed the bear. Giants fans crossed the bear. I think Eagles fans have. And to be honest, that's been this division for a long time. You talk about one of the strengths of the Eagles since they've gone on this run, really as one of the best teams of this century. Don't underestimate the bad ownership in the NFC East. Giving them a leg up each and every year.
Yeah.
And that's changing a little bit in Washington. It's not going to change in New York. It's not going to change in Dallas. They have good businessmen, but Jerry Jones is going to get in the way. Yeah, it's been a big edge for the Eagles, and it looks like it's going to continue with the New York Giants.
Yep, no doubt about it. What did you think of that Gerard Mayo firing, John?
He shouldn't have been a head coach to begin with. It's like one of those things where you know what's coming. So you either really believe in the guy and let him live through the awful season, or you don't, and he's a one and done guy, and they don't, evidently it's going to be Mike Vrabel. That's what everybody thinks, who's a proven guy at this stage. And
the optics of it aren't good. I'm not saying Gerard Mayo was this great coach or anything, but if you're going to give a guy a job, commit to him. I mean, give him a chance, give him a moment, give him something. I didn't understand. I mean, why make him the coach if he's going to be gone after a year? I think I don't know. That seems too quick for me.
Well, it is too quick if you believe in him. If you don't believe in him, you got to admit the mistake, and obviously they don't believe in him. But
did they ever believe in him? That's my question.
I don't know. It's hard to, it's hard to say. Jake Rosenberg, he used to work for the Eagles. People know if they watch this show, but he tweeted something yesterday I thought was interesting, and he said, most NFL GM head coach hires are doomed from day one. Those hiring lack clarity in what skills, experience determine success in the role You don't understand experience and skills of candidates. The results is a prediction and a huge bet of money and time that someone can learn the other 90% of the job. The process can be so much better, and the league itself can do much more to develop and assess. And I agree with them. You know, they do a bad job.
Right.
Not another big advantage the Eagles have. They don't spend the time and the money to do the due diligence on all these candidates. And the Eagles are famous league wide for their long interview process, which has gone, 7-8 hours in the past, to the point the league had to change the rule and limit time you have with these candidates. Everybody's not like that. And they bet. Like Ben Johnson's a perfect example. Can he call plays? Obviously. Can he do 90% of the other job, which is bigger? I don't know. A lot of people say here, well, keep Kellen Moore. Not a lot, but a lot of people said, because you don't want to change the play caller again. You can't keep changing the play caller. I mean, people have now seen Kellen Moore for a whole season, and they see Nick Serianni all the time. Does one feel like a better leader? I hate using this term, but I'm going to use this term. Leader of men.
Right.
Does one seem like a little bit better in that aspect? Because it seems like a slam dunk to me.
It's a slam dunk, John. You're correct.
You don't want a guy learning 90% of the other part of the job and only having 10% down, is what Jake was saying.
Who's the next Nick Sirianni / Dan Campbell? And people are going to say, why the hell you put them in the same sentence? Well, I actually think, John, that Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni have more similarities than people think. They have different styles. Yes, they're completely different
leaders. Yeah.
But they're both so passionate. They wear their emotions on their sleeve, whether good or bad. They stick to their guns, and I think their commitment to their team and at least the way they show that to their players is one of the biggest reasons that people love playing for them. I mean, I listened to the Jared Goff post-game interview on Sunday night. I mean, he almost was in tears when he just got asked about playing for Dan Campbell. What's it mean to play for this? He was literally almost brought to tears. And I'm like, that's a guy that's connected with his players, his professional players, in a deeper way. And I think Nick maybe doesn't get enough credit for that, but I think he does that as well. Maybe not with Jalen, because I think Jalen is just too stoic to ever show that type of emotion. But certainly seems like Eagle players love playing for him, and obviously the Detroit players love playing for Dan. Who's the next coach in the league that's going to be able to captivate a locker room like that?
If I could tell you that, I wouldn't be here. I'd be making a lot of money. But if I had to pick somebody,
I mean, what do you look for? What would you look for if it were you?
Leadership.
It's a hard thing to do.
Leadership. Like so much of, the cliche in the NFL is, if you're hiring a scheme, you're doing it wrong. And by the way, Kellen Moore is a perfect example of this. The Eagles didn't hire a scheme. He changed. And I think that's good coaching to take advantage of what he had. So I think he's done a very good job coaching that offense. But if you're asking me to pick, and I've been saying this for years, since he left here and he retired finally, and the Houston Texans were going to make him the head coach straight off the field until they got too much blowback and they didn't have the courage to do it. Josh McCown. Everybody loves that guy. Everybody loves that guy. He played for 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
He's seen every scheme that's ever been devised. So he knows the football part of it. But the other part of it is, I'm telling you, people gravitate to him.
I was at the playoff game and he stepped in for Carson Wentz. That
Yeah.
was the last playoff game I was at the link. Johnny
Yeah.
Mack was next.
In fact, I remember I advocated at the time the Eagles were going to interview him to be an assistant, like quality control, start him out. I advocated they make him quarterbacks coach right away and maybe offensive coordinator.
Where is he now? I think he's with the team still, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the quarterback coach in Minnesota. He's getting an interview with the Jets.
There you go. Yeah.
To be the head coach. Now, when he did retire, the Texans interviewed him twice to be the head coach. And the first time they were going to hire him, and they just, how could you do that? How could you? He's got no experience, which is what I find amusing. Like 2 years of quality control experience and then going, it's more important than playing 18 fucking years in the league.
I know, it's so true.
So he's been on the fast track. He's been the quarterback's coach in Carolina and now Minnesota. He's already had head coaching interviews. If I had to bet on somebody, and I've been betting on him since he was here, it would be Josh McCown.
Good pick. I like that. I like that pick. Johnny Mac, we'll get to our first commercial break, and when we come back, we'll dive into some more of this Eagles-Packers playoff game. Wild card, everybody, get ready. It's now do or die. Do or die for the Philadelphia Eagles. We have a super chat we'll get to, and by the way, I will take more super chats later on in the show. We have no guest today, so we will go to some super chats from the great people. If you guys have any questions about the playoff game for J-Mac, make sure you get them in there. F Body Guy says, J-Mac, please ask Howie in the hallway to keep our coordinators so we can have consistency. It's been a problem. Pay these guys. I don't think it's about paying them, man. If they get a head coach, they're gone.
Yeah, it ain't about paying them. The Eagles, pay their coordinators.
Although I don't think Vic Fangio wants another head coach.
Vic doesn't want to leave. So you have part of the equation solved. And plus, there's a lot of ageism he's not going to get. There's not a better assistant coach in football. But he's 66 years old, so nobody wants him. So that's that wheelhouse where there's a little bit of luck involved. With Kellen, you can't keep him. If he gets a head coaching job, he's going to take a head coaching job. There could be the rare occasion when you have a Ben Johnson last year who, is in a perfect situation and says, I'll wait. I don't want to go to Carolina. I don't want to go to Washington, which was a mess at the time. But Kellen's not in that position. If he gets a job, he's pretty much got to take it. So you can't keep a guy who has ambition. And he wants to be a head coach, and he'll be a head coach eventually. But I don't get the feeling he's a hot candidate this time around. I wrote about this yesterday. To me, he's behind, obviously, Ben Johnson. He's behind, if you're talking about the offensive guys, Cliff Kingsbury is going to get a lot of buzz again. You start talking, Arthur Smith is getting interviews, which, my God, I don't get. Matt Nagy, you got the Andy Reid effect, rebuilding him. Bobby Slowick, even. I don't get the feeling he's at the top of a lot of lists. So I think the Eagles are going to luck out. Now, plus there's only 5 openings. Now, if one of these teams doesn't get the guy they want, which will probably be Ben Johnson, and decide to wait, then if the Eagles have a run to the Super Bowl, well, that can change it really quickly.
Right.
But most of these teams want to act pretty quickly.
What's the best job this year? Like, what if you're Ben Johnson, where do you want to go?
That's a good question.
Well, there's not that. I'm telling you, I know there's only 32 of these jobs. They're all coveted in a way, but Ben Johnson was picky last year. I don't think he's going to be less picky this year.
I mean, he might want to work with Trevor Lawrence, but then you have Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Which
that owner, John, I know you're friends with that family. I mean, good Lord. What is he doing? What the hell is he doing?
Chicago with Caleb Williams. Yeah.
Meh.
I think he's taking the job, though. You can't wait forever. Certainly if they win. I mean,
people are saying Raiders in the chat. Did Raiders let go of Pierce? I didn't see that. Did
not
they?
Yet.
Not yet. Yeah. They waited to, I guess they're going to call it Black Tuesday now.
Raiders have no quarterback, though. You know, I would say Jacksonville, number 1, Chicago, number 2, because
maybe Ben would like the opportunity to pick a quarterback. No,
not this year.
Definitely not this year.
Yeah. I would say Jacksonville number 1, but you know, and that was the weirdest thing. Shad's like, well, if a new head coach wants me to fire the guy, I'll fire him.
I know that clip was hilarious.
Which you know, Ben would certainly want him to fire him. So Trent would be out, and they would have to acquiesce to a lot of demands. But I think Jacksonville would be the number 1 because of Trevor Lawrence.
That's fair. BVC, good super chat, man. I'm going to get to that after the break because that's a good topic. I do want to talk a little bit about about Nick Serianni. So good super chat there. We'll get to that after the break. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, F-Body guy, as well for the super chat. Big thanks to everybody watching this morning. Big Z's got a little different setup today. I'm trying to fix up the studio. I'm done with the green screens, John. I'm done with them. They drive me crazy. So I'm trying to build a studio. I'm not quite there yet, but I will eventually make it better as I want to.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd like to get, but I don't have room for. I can't build a studio.
Yeah, this is a tough. The room I'm in, which is my studio, it's been it's where I worked forever, but it's got 3 huge windows. So when you're trying to build a studio, you want to control the light as best.
Yeah,
you can.
yeah.
That makes
That's a problem. That's a problem.
That makes it hard to deal with. Yeah, you know that. You got the big window next to you too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to deal with all that, but I'll get it worked out. Appreciate everybody being here. Hit that like button. We appreciate you guys for all the support this week. Big playoff game, everybody. It's do or die now. Let's get to our first commercial break. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go and check them out now. You can see the promo code on your screen. That's YouTube 150. Gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit. So deposit less and bet with more. It's all up to $2,000. So go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa and use the promo code YouTube150. We appreciate that. Thanks to them for sponsoring the show today. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. It's playoff week, everybody. Get ready. Eagles versus Packers, 4:25 Sunday. Get your popcorn ready. Get your chicken wings. Do whatever you got to do. It's do or die now. This is where the fun really begins, Johnny Mac. And, John, the game started on, I guess, Sunday night. The line came out, and I'm not a betting guy at all, so this isn't. I'm not talking about betting, but
the line is not talking to you. It's talking to you.
It is. It's talking to me, and I don't even bet, John. But it went to 3.5 to 5.5. So Vegas is thinking something to that Watson injury. I guess, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a betting guy, so I don't know how to read the lines as much.
Lines are, they set the line to spur betting from both sides, and when they set the line at 3.5, they probably set it to get Eagles fans upset, get some money. Then it shifts, and now the Packers fans will get upset. We can beat them, and Vegas. That's the brilliance of Vegas. So I think it has the people that think, oh, they know Jordan Love is hurt. They don't know shit. Trust me.
That was a little weird injury. Did you have any takeaway from that Jordan Love injury? I mean, I don't know if he hit his funny bone or what he did, but
yeah, that's what Dr. Chow said. So I'm gonna lean on him. I don't expect it to be a problem. So if the hope is that, probably not. He'll be fine. They'll have to beat him. And they can, but he's dangerous, and you have to be cognizant of that.
Good stuff there. BVC checks in, John. He says, John, with the season done, do you still not like the coach setup? I think that's actually a good question. Now, 14-3, they finished up. We kind of talked about a lot in the offseason and early in the year that the coaching setup was not ideal. I still don't think it's ideal, but I think they've all learned how to maybe work within it. What do you think of the coaching setup now, Johnny Mac, after the regular season has concluded?
I think it unfolded exactly as I predicted. Exactly. If you go back to early in the season, I think it was unfair to Nick Serianni, which is what I said. If you go back to early in the season, what I said would happen when things were going well, it would be Kellen Moore. And when things went poorly, it would be Nick Serianni. And sure enough, that's Nick Sirianni's offense. He's taking it over. And when things looked a little
We're still getting that, by the way. I had a comment, John, that you would have hated on my X account. Somebody commented back to me after the game on Sunday, and they said, this offense looks better today because Kellen Moore is finally allowed to run.
There you go. I'm telling you. Yeah. And the only way Nick could have avoided the ultimate fate was to win. And they have won.
So if it worked, which it did evidently so far, at least 14-3 season, pretty damn good season if you ask me. Are you ready to say that some of the stuff has been superseded because of their ability to win, which ultimately equals success? And when you're successful, then something works. The setup is fine.
Yeah, when something
right?
works, nobody cares.
Right.
Like nobody talks about it. Was all you got to get more emotion about. You got to scheme guys open. They never do that. Nobody cares because they're winning games. Now they did it with Tanner McKee, but that's a different conversation. But they were winning games. So at the end of the day, if you win, nobody cares. Now, if this were turned on its head, and by that I mean if Green Bay was 14-3 and hosting Philadelphia at 11-6 going into Lambeau Field, Nick would be coaching for his job. I firmly believe that.
If they get bounced in the wild card this year the way they did last year, John, what are you going to say? Because last year you went into Tampa, you said there's no way. You tell that story all the time. And on your flight out of there, you were thinking, well, maybe this thing could get blown up. Is there any chance that happens this year if they lose in the wild card? You did see that report a couple of weeks ago from Jeremy Fowler, who put out if the Eagles don't, make a deep playoff run, Nick Sirianni's job could be in jeopardy. I'd find that hard to believe with 48 wins in 4 years, but you never know, John. I think there's any jeopardy of that this year.
Very little. As in they would have to get blown out. It would have to be really ugly. And then everything gets emotional and everything's on the table. But if it's a typical, 1-score loss, close game, ball doesn't bounce your way, don't get me wrong, he will get killed the next day, but they will not fire him. So, you always say if they get blown out 40-3, yeah. I mean, everything's on the table. Jeffrey Lurie. Remember, you're talking about one person. One person. So if that one person gets emotional, gets upset, anything can happen. But it would have to be incredibly embarrassing. And that's not going to happen.
Where is Nick with his contract? Any idea? And it's 4 years now. Was it a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal?
A 5. They'll extend him after this year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. The Eagles are not the team that will take a lame duck coach into a season. So he'll get an extension. They'll make sure those two are aligned. And go from there.
Good stuff here. Let's get to another super chat. Vulnerable Vitality checks in. Vulnerable, thank you, brother. He says, I know I'm jumping ahead for the Jalen is going to be slow and rusty. I'm worried club. Well, you're talking to one. Vulnerable, that would be me. I raise you 2022 wild card round. He's capable. It's in there, and I'm confident in him and his preparation. Well, Vulnerable, here's the difference, okay? In 2022, Jalen missed 2 games at the end of the year. He returned for week 18, didn't have his best game, and the Eagles beat the Giants. And then they played the Giants again in the wild card round. So he did return in week 18, and I think he was completed like 55, 60% of his passes with no touchdowns and an interception in that game. That wasn't his greatest game. Now, he did have a decent game in the divisional. Started off quick, and then they blew the Giants out, so he didn't have to do much. And then he obviously didn't have to do much versus the 49ers either, because that was the Hassan Reddick show who destroyed that team. And then he had his best game in the Super Bowl. But he didn't really play that great coming off the 2 games that he missed in week 18. And he didn't obviously play week 18 this year. So that's the difference. But, John, any response to Vulnerable? I know I just polluted it with my take.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think if there's any rust, it'll be worn off by the first quarter. So, I mean, I think it's more to do with how you're playing on a particular day.
Well, we'll forget the rust element of it then. Jalen Hurts needs to play good in this game, John. Agreed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I'm not, again, I'm never going to, so many people, it's one of my pet peeves. So many people, well, Jalen Hurts lost to the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Trust me, if they lose this game, there will be more people involved than Jalen Hurts. Or vice versa. Jordan Love loses in the playoffs. Oh, Jordan Love can't be. Drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, is anybody out there besides those guys?
Yeah. One thing, let me just correct this real quick. Deshae, you're right. It wasn't the wild card they played the Giants. It was the divisional round. So he had played week 18, then they had a bye week. So he was back for the divisional round. You're right. Sorry about that, Deshae.
Yeah. I mean, so many people just Sam Darnold played crappy. Yeah, he did play crappy, but, there are other avenues to win games. It becomes much more difficult if your quarterback plays crappy. And as I said, they're more apt to lose you a game, believe it or not, than win you a game. Because you control the football every play. But, Saquon could go off for 200 yards. Josh Jacob could go off from 150. A.J. Brown could dominate. Jaden Reed can dominate. Jalen Carter could wreck the game. Rashawn Gary could wreck the game. C.J. Gardner-Johnson could turn things around with his playmaking skills.
Right.
Xavier McKinney can continue to be an Eagles killer. Kayshawn Nixon might return a shitty kick for a touchdown. Great kick returner. A lot of ways.
Yeah, good stuff. I got a couple more questions, John, about this game, and we're going to dive into it. But one of the main things I'm looking at here is, if you're the Packers defense, and Jeff Hafley, credit to him, John, he's done a good job this year. First year defensive coordinator, and they're top 10 and basically every metric this year across the board, offense and defense. So they're a solid team all around. He's done a good job. How the hell are they game planning though? And if you're the Eagles, how do you exploit? Because they're missing Jair Alexander, obviously. They're low on the corner. They're thin at cornerback, and then they're going to have to sell out some extent to try and stop Saquon Barkley. So it's kind of a pick your poison situation for them. How do you expect the Eagles to attack, and how do you expect Jeff Hafley to kind of try and stop this Eagles offense?
Well, it's, on paper, it's daunting. We've talked about that all year, but it hasn't really developed into that. Where, the Eagles offense has turned into this Detroit-like machine. They rely on the running backs. So, I think first and foremost, everybody's going to come in and say, stop Saquon Barkley. And then it becomes a war of attrition in the second half. Generally, a lot of teams have done okay jobs in the first half and then fall apart in the second half.
Right.
I find it ironic that the Eagles finished 8th in offense this year. And they were 8th in offense last year. It hasn't been what was advertised in that if you take Saquon Barkley away, we'll just throw it to AJ. If we take AJ Brown, we'll just do it to DeMonte. And,
right.
Maybe Dallas Goedert being back helps a little bit. But it hasn't been that. So from their perspective, I think it's about stopping Saquon first and forcing the passing offense to get in a rhythm, and then you take it from there. Alexander's a great player, but they haven't had him for a while.
Yeah, since like late October, I think
Yeah.
it was.
So it's not like he just got hurt. And I forget what Green Bay finished, but they're top 10 defense, and they played a long time without him. Do you want him out there? Of course. You know, he's their best corner. He's one of the best corners in football. So anytime
They're
you
the
lose
5
him,
overall defense, John, number 5.
yeah. And they're pretty good. They have a good front. Edgerrin Cooper's really turned it on as a rookie linebacker. That's a guy, a lot of, we were talking about draft time. Well, if you can get Cooper in the second or third round. Now, turns out the Eagles have better linebackers, but he's turned into a really good linebacker right away. If we go back all the way to week 1, the Saquon Barkley wheel route touchdown, the Eagles will probably try to wheel that out again, pun intended, get him on Isaiah McDuffie again. Is he going to catch it? Maybe, maybe not. So they'll work for those types of matchups in the passing game. But boy, you got to be wary of Xavier McKinney in the middle of
he's their one big playmaker on defense that you don't want to go. I think he's got 8 interceptions this year, so he's been a big signing for them, John. And Philly, people in Philly, if they remember, that was the guy that the Eagles wanted, but he just got too expensive for him.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah,
the Eagles have known it for a long time, and they had a ton of interest.
He's familiar with Jalen Hurts too. They played together in college.
Yeah, well, and they played twice a year.
Yeah,
when he was with the Giants, but just a great player and great coverage player more than anything else. So he's got a feel for it. And yeah, you got to be wary. He might be the best center fielder in the NFL.
I like that. So here's the numbers for this Packers defense for those wondering. On this is courtesy of Fox Sports. So this is just yards per game, basically. It's not the perfect metric. It's not PFF grading. It's yards per game. So the Packers are 5th overall, giving up 314.5 defensive yards average per game. Eagles are number 1, 278 yards per game on that list. So 1 and 5, both top 5 defenses. In passing defense, Eagles are number 1 overall, 174.2 passing yards allowed per game. And the Packers are, where are they on the passing defense list? I thought they were higher than this. Let me see. Packers are 13th with 215.2. And then their rushing defense, the Packers are 7 overall, giving up 99 yards per game. So pretty good numbers for their defense. They are a solid defense. Jeff Hafley's done a good job in his first year as DC.
Yeah, he has. But good offense, I always say, will beat good defense.
Yep.
So if the Eagles are clicking, they'll be able to score some points. Just like, the games they've lost against Detroit, Minnesota, have been able to score some points with explosive offenses. But so, good offense will beat good defense. So if the Eagles are clicking, they're going to be very difficult to stop.
Good stuff here. Let's get to Matt Ing. I think that's how you pronounce NG. I used to call him Matt NG. Matt, I think I saw your comment one time that I'm pronouncing it way wrong, but I'm going to keep rolling with it. Matt NG. He says, from play calling standpoint, do you consider the success that you've had your backups and that scheme versus with Jalen? Do we see Jalen the pocket quarterback? Let me reread that. From a play calling standpoint, do you consider the success that you've had your backups in that scheme versus with Jalen? Do we see Jalen the pocket quarterback?
Well, I think what he's trying to say is, can you play like you played with Tanner McKee? I don't know if that's the case, but that's how I'm taking it. Look, Tanner did a great job playing a very bad opponent, but he's a different style of quarterback. So you play differently. Like a lot of those, a lot of those misdirection plays, bootlegs, things like that. They're more successful when they come from under center. With Jalen Hurts, you're not going to be under center a lot. It's going to be pistol or shotgun. And those things can be far less effective from that range, from that platform. So, and this is where Kellen Moore deserves credit. And for people that do want to interview, they should take notice of him morphing his offensive scheme to the strength of the players he has here, which is a good thing. And when he shifted to the strengths of Tanner McKee, that's a good thing. You don't.
The one thing I struggle with, John, with that though, is I have a hard time believing that. I know it's not Jalen's perfect skill set, but I have a hard time believing some of those simple things he did for Tanner wouldn't help Jalen. Some of those bootlegs, some of the rollouts, some of just getting him in rhythm early in games. Like, I do think it's credit to Kellen for adapting to the quarterback, but can't some of that stuff work for Jalen Hurts too? Like, he is a professional quarterback. It's not like I'm asking him to, build a rocket, for crying out loud. It's simple quarterbacking stuff. I think he would do and benefit from.
Well, why wouldn't they do it?
I don't know.
The thing that people say is simple, like taking a snap from center. People say that's simple. All right, that's simple. Well, if you spent your entire life taking shotgun snaps, pistol snaps, and all of a sudden, go be Kirk Cousins. Perfect footwork, 5-step drops, 7-step drops. I think a lot of people know it's not about taking the ball from the center.
Right.
You and I can do that. Then you have the proper footwork to get back to the spot where you're supposed to be, the timing of the route, the play action, the ball handling. Like Aaron Rodgers faking out the whole stadium and the whole camera crew with his ability to manipulate and hide the football. There's a lot to it. And everybody's gotten to the same spot. Everybody. Which I wish more people would take notice of this. Nick Serianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, and now Kellen Moore. Everybody has gotten to the same point and said, all right, this is what this guy does well. Let's build on that.
Right.
I think it's good coaching, and I think more people should pay attention to it.
Good take there, Johnny Mac. Good stuff there. Eduardo checks in. What's up, Eduardo? He says, off topic, Z. I know you said you're going to give away that Hurts mural, but that joint looks good behind you. Keep that, bro. Doubt anyone minds it. I am going to give it away eventually, Eduardo. I just needed something for the wall, and you can see the windows I told you guys about are now creating a glare on it. So I got to get them. I got to get those blackout window shades or whatever they are called. But thank you for the super chat, brother. And I will definitely give away that mural at some point in the future. Maybe that's an off-season giveaway. It's a hard thing to ship. I will say that. So I'll figure that out. Jason A-Team checks in, and he says, who are your under-the-radar teams? That might take a couple upsets. That might make a couple upsets in the playoffs. I have a sneaky suspicion Tampa might win a couple. I think Tampa Bay at Philly, NFC Championship game, Broncos too. Well, Jason, let me just correct you on one thing. A Tampa at Philly NFC title game is not possible. It's not possible because if Tampa and the Eagles both win their wild card round, which is this Sunday or Saturday, depending on when you play, they will play each other in the divisional. So if they both win, no matter what happens in the other game, the Eagles are going to play the Bucs in the divisional, and that would be in Philly. So maybe a divisional matchup, but if you think Tampa Bay is going to win a couple, that means the Philadelphia Eagles are getting bounced by the Bucs, A-Team. John, what do you think of that, though? It's a good question. Who are your under-the-radar teams that might make a couple upsets in the playoffs. I know who
Well,
you're
we
gonna
talked
say,
about
and
it
it's not all of them.
yesterday. Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Green Bay, unfortunately, in the NFC. Boy, the AFC looks much more concrete. And it's hard to imagine anybody catching fire in beating the better teams in the AFC. But if I had to pick one, probably the Chargers because of the quarterback and the coach. But that's a long shot. If there's going to be a team, a lower seeded team, so a non-division champion, I did sour on Minnesota after that performance against Detroit.
I soured a little bit too.
I got to go Green Bay. Green Bay is the one team that can get hot and beat anybody.
What about the Rams? I think they're a sleeper too.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
I just like Stafford.
I love Stafford.
Yeah,
but he's older. I think they'll beat the Vikings, but then that'll be it. Then I think they get boat raced in the divisional round.
Yeah, they would play the Lions in the divisional round, and that wouldn't be good for them. Well, actually, we'd play the Rams in the divisional if I
think they get either team. I think they get boat raced. I think they get boat raced.
Yeah. I think we'd play the Rams if the Commanders beat the Bucs and the Vikings lose to the Rams. I believe we would play the Rams at that point, and the Lions would play the Commanders.
Boat raced. Any way they go. Boat raced in the divisional round.
This
very similar to the Giants last time. The Giants upset the Vikings in the wildcard round, and then came to Philadelphia and got boat raced.
Right.
That's what'll happen to the Rams.
Yeah.
Same
to me, John, it just looks like a collision course. Eagles versus Lions. I can't kick it. It's what it looks like. Now maybe there's an Eagles slant there where I think we're going to win, the first two games and get to the Lions. But to me, it just looks like a collision course. Eagles Lions in the NFC title game, and I don't see the Lions getting knocked off by anybody. I don't care if it's the Vikings. I don't care if it's the Rams, the Commanders. Doesn't matter who they play.
Well, generally, I get knocked off by the Vikings. There's certain styles make bites. Like they got that team's number.
Yeah, I agree. Sam Darnold's already seeing ghost, and he doesn't even know if he's playing them yet.
Yeah. I think if the Eagles beat Green Bay, this will be tougher than any of the divisional round matchups. Any of them. Yeah,
because it would be either Bucs or Rams. Really, is your only two options. I think.
Vikings.
Commanders.
Vikings.
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any bracket where we could play the Commanders because they would play the Lions.
But any of those teams, even if you want to throw in the Commanders, I think this is a tougher game for the Eagles.
That's fair. They're a streaky team, but they are good. When they're good, they're good. Flexing and Stepping checks in. He says, "Yeet, what's up, Flex? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well this morning, my man." D. Hughes checks in. He says, "Both teams love to run the ball, but the team with the best passing games will win. I say it's both teams' best interest to come out of the gates passing." D. Hughes, I agree with you. I know John says all the time it's not quarterback versus quarterback, and I understand that, but the team that can throw the ball better in this game, I believe, will win the game.
Yeah, probably. And the Eagles gotta throw it well because Green Bay will throw it well.
Yeah.
At times, again, they might wait. But they will throw it well at times. And they'll come at you in waves. And guys like Reed, like they're not big name receivers. Reed, Dobbs, Wicks, Melton, he'll step up. But they're good and they get open. The tight end is really good. And Tucker Kraft, and he might be the second best tight end to Luke Musgrave, but he's been injured for most of the year. and now he's back. So yeah, they can throw the football, but unintended consequence. And by the way, if Green Bay gets blown out in this game, I'm not saying it's going to happen, and it's not going to happen. I start looking at Matt Lafleur.
Yeah.
I go, what are you doing, dude?
He's done a good job, though, John. I don't think he's going anywhere, dude.
No, I don't. But with this team, I don't think he's done a good job. This specific team in 2024.
Yeah, this year is probably the first year, though, because you remember last year, they had like no Aaron Rodgers. So it was like, all right, it's one thing to win a lot of games with Aaron Rodgers. Then he was successful last year, and I think he deserves some credit for that. But you're right; it's been a little underwhelming for him this year. Although they did finish 11-6.
They're plotting. It's like because there's no reason they need to be plotting, and they are because they got a running back, and it seems like, oh well, we gotta make sure that this running back is worth it. Like I think that's what happened. And actually, to be honest, they're more explosive when Emmanuel Wilson's on the field. To be perfectly honest, their backup running back.
Right. Good stuff there. Crawley checks in and he says, what if the Commanders win and Vikings win? Well, we're playing the Vikings in Philly in the divisional. What do you think of that matchup, John? Eagles, Vikings. I give us the advantage, but I will say, I don't, the one guy who scares me there is Brian Flores.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings are talented, so you're that's a concern.
I just think the Eagles are such a different offense than the Lions that Brian Flores would have a better. Yeah,
that's a little, but I because the Lions are used to playing the Vikings, so they've seen all the crazy shit.
Right.
Yeah, it might be a problem, at least early, because he'll throw some stuff that the Eagles haven't seen. They'll see it on film, but I'm talking about the actual players, and specifically Jalen Hurts, because they're coming from every direction. They're dropping from every direction. Van Ginkel's just a monster. Grenard.
Yeah, Van Ginkel can play. And Grenard, I think he's got 12 sacks this year. He had a good game versus them.
Blake Cashman. Right? They lost for the first time with Blake Cashman. They were undefeated with Blake Cashman when Blake Cashman played. That's the first game they lost. Maybe the most underrated linebacker in the NFL. Yeah.
Speaking of linebackers, you know who looked good in their return to that game? Lions player Alex Anzalone.
Well, he did, but they let him play in that game.
Yes, they did. Very physical game.
Yeah.
I hope that's the MO for the playoffs.
There's good and bad to it.
Yeah, but I believe football is a physical game. I like the physicality. Let them play a little bit. I'd rather have.
I'm with you typically, but then you're going to get all the complaints and.
John, you're getting that anyway, dude. That is going to happen in every NFL circle, no matter what.
Yeah, but when you're pulling the arm of the tight end and it's not called, and they say you call it every week, and then you don't call it, it just creates issues. But you as a player, you have to get a feel. It's like an NBA game, or it's like a starting pitcher when you got a wonky strike zone. You got to get a feel for that early and adjust.
Right.
And if you're playing if you're playing the Lions, you want them to allow you to be physical, because you want to disrupt the receivers. You want to disrupt Gibbs, coming out of the backfield. So you're almost hoping for a physical game. And I don't think Minnesota adjusted well. On the other side, I think Detroit just adjusted really well. But they came in with that game plan. It was like, all right, we're just gonna hold and push and shove and grab, and the mentality there is, all right, you'll get a couple calls, but then they'll get tired of calling it, and it worked. But it's not always going to work. You got to get a feel for it.
That's true. We'll see how it plays out. But you're right about that. They'd let those teams play. Jason A Team checks in. Thank you, Jason. He says, I say Bronx. Oh, what the hell is that? Sorry about that. Got ads playing on the websites I'm on. Jason A Team says, I say Broncos because I watched a lot of Bo Nix this year, and he looks like a young Drew Brees out there. His passing and processing is way impressive. And he's mobile. A Team. He can move. He's not like a running quarterback, but he can move if he needs to. He has been good, John. I got to admit, I was way wrong on Bo Nix, man. I watched him at Auburn for all those years, losing to Alabama. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't think he's going to be very good.
Auburn doesn't exactly play the style of football that, if Bo Nix didn't go to Oregon, he wouldn't be Bo Nix. But,
that's true. It's true.
Yeah, he's had a great year, but I don't trust him in the playoffs at all. There's stages to this, and typically young quarterbacks have to learn before they can take the next step. Same thing will probably happen to Jaden Daniels, to be honest. I would never pick. You can go back to Dan Marino. It's not impossible, but I rarely pick a rookie quarterback to go far in a deep run. Certainly when, and he's going to be beating better teams too.
Yeah.
He's
got to go up against the Bills in round one, doesn't he?
Yeah. I don't see that happening at all. At all.
Good stuff, A-Team. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for checking in. Matt Ing. I'm going with Ing now. Matt, you can correct me in the chat. I'll look for your comment. He says, do you have any concerns with Jake Elliott? Seems like a hole in the boat. I know he has had ice in the past, but I don't know if I trust the guy with the yips. He has the yips. I don't care what anybody says. You can see it on his face, John. He's got the yips, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he hasn't had a good season.
No.
He missed from under 40 for the first time this year, so extra concern. Field goal, I'm talking about. Yeah, hasn't had a good year. So typically you go into playoff run, you say, hey, we're good at kicker. Can't say that this year. But in some ways it can help. And by that, I mean, if it's 4th and 3 and there's the option of taking a 50-yard field goal or going for it, the Eagles are probably going to go for it. And I think that could help them, to be honest. Even 4th and 4, even 4th and 5.
Right.
And that, takes them into the Detroit realm. And I think they might have to get to that realm to beat Detroit. So, could be a silver lining to it in a weird way.
D. Hughes checks in. He says, look at this, John. Would Packers, Vikings, Lions, Chiefs be the hardest Super Bowl path in recent memory, if not ever? Whoop, boy, that'd be a tough path there, John. And that could happen. That could happen. Now, you need the Commanders to upset the Bucks, but Packers, Vikings, Lions, Chiefs.
Yeah, you would have earned it if that's the path.
You're going through the NFC North completely.
You would have earned it. Yeah, that would be quite the run. I would have to think about actual runs, but the Giants' stupid run with I forget who they beat. I know they beat Green Bay in Lambeau. Then they won the Super Bowl. That might be up there, but I forget who the earlier matchups were.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Good stuff there. Brian Pumper checks in. He says, fellas, I believe we get bounced in this round. Feels like a recipe for a Hurts stinker. If only we had a 6'6", 235-pound specimen with a rocket arm to save us. Holy shit, Pumper.
And Brian's mind, has Jalen Hurts ever not had a stinker?
Well, he didn't have a stinker in the Super Bowl. That's for damn. Brian, you better admit that, Pumper.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm surprised that I haven't gotten more Eagles should start Tanner McKee people, and I'm very proud of it. The people.
Come on, that's a stupid topic at this point. Now, I will say this: if they get bounced, John, if they get bounced in the first round in the wild card this weekend, I think every question will be asked by everybody on every network, on every station, on every YouTube channel, on every show. Everybody will ask all the questions that you're thinking about.
I wouldn't ask them, but
if they get blown out with this roster, are you kidding me?
No, I would not. I would not even hesitate. There's no world where Tanner McKee is better than Jalen.
I'm not saying Tanner McKee. I just mean the question of the quarterback in general.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there'll be questions about the quarterback. There already are. He's the quarterback. There's always questions about the quarterback. I'm just talking about the unrealistic people. That's who I'm talking about. It's always disappointing when you lose. No matter if they lose, if they don't win the Super Bowl, there's going to be angst and disappointment. And Jalen Hurts is going to take some shit. And Nick Serianni is going to take some shit. It's the way it goes. Doesn't change in any other city.
If you lose to the Lions in the NFC title game, that's a different feel than going 14-3, having a stacked roster, number one overall defense, and getting bounced in the wild card. Now, I don't think we're going to get bounced.
Well, yeah, it's depending. Well, if they get blown out, I don't think it is. But if it's a close game, yeah. But there will be a bunch of people very disappointed. As they look at the Super Bowl. There's a legendary team, the best quarterback of this generation, the best coach of this generation, on the verge of something that nobody else has ever done, and people still think that was an egregious loss. They don't even give the team credit for reaching the Super Bowl. A small group, minority, but they exist. So, yeah, it'll happen no matter when they lose, if they lose. The only way you can avoid it is by winning the whole thing.
No doubt about that, for sure. John, coming in this game, I got a couple more questions about the matchup, and we're going to be breaking down this matchup all week long. So, stay locked in on Birds 365 all week. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate all the super chats today. Thanks, Pumper, A-Team, Matt Ing, D. Hughes. Appreciate all you guys. John, the one thing that sticks out to me, obviously with Jair Alexander out, is the Eagles should be targeting these cornerbacks. You mentioned Keyshawn Nixon. He's a good player, not a great player, and then it drops off quick after that. Now if you stay away from Xavier McKinney, I think you're in pretty good shape, and it could be a big game for Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown in this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been watching this team at pretty large sample size. They're not going to throw it all over the field. They certainly have the players to do it, but they don't do it. So,
But that's why if I'm the Packers coming into this game, if I'm Jeff Hafley right now and I'm studying up, I'm making Jalen Hurts beat me. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I'm not gonna let Saquon Barkley have 2 65-yard runs to take the game in the fourth quarter. I'm just not. I'd rather get beat with A.J. Brown over the top and force Jalen to make the throw if I'm an opposing defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I think that's where people are.
Yeah.
Can he do it? Sure. AJ's going to be open. You know that.
Yeah, especially if it's one-on-one, and they're probably going to get some one-on-ones.
But I mean, I find it very hard to believe this team's going to become all of a sudden become a high volume passing team. I don't see that happening. Just not the way they're playing. Now, what would be interesting is if it turns into a shootout and they're forced to be a high volume passing team, because I think they can do it. Why can't they do it? Got the best offensive line in football, arguably the best duo, certainly in the conversation at receiver. You got your big time tight end back. Why can't you do it? The answer is you should be able to do it, but they haven't done it. So it's tough to assume they can do it.
Good stuff, John. We're going to get to a commercial break, and then we'll come back, and we have 30 minutes left on the show to kick it around. Appreciate everybody in here. John, you'd be proud of me. You know what I tuned into last night, John?
Monday Night Raw.
I did.
Netflix.
That was the first wrestling I've watched in years. I had some takeaways, but real quick, I don't want to spend too much
that
time
was a
there.
spectacle, by the way.
That
new arena, the Intuit Dome, is unbelievable.
Who is that? The Clippers? The Clippers?
Clippers,
Had the Clippers play there?
Clippers, yeah. It is unbelievable. When I was out in Los Angeles a couple of years ago for the Eagles game with the Rams, it's right near SoFi Stadium. So I drove by it in my Uber, and even then they hadn't finished it yet, but it was on the verge of being finished. It was unbelievable looking from the outside. Yeah, boy, makes you wonder why we spend so much money on these things, but they are spectacular.
Yeah, no, they are. It was good. It was a good event. I enjoyed watching it. It's very obvious to me who the main dudes are. I like Roman Reigns. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch much, so it's hard for me. Like, I don't know all the storylines. You know, there's so many storylines to everything, and I don't know them, so it's kind of hard. And by the way, all you wrestling fans out there, you guys aren't slick. I saw that Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley match, and I'm looking at that thing, and I'm like, I know why all these dudes are fans of wrestling. You guys aren't getting that past me.
Yeah. Liv is working with some stuff. I'll say that.
Rhea too. Are you kidding me? Good stuff, though. Appreciate everybody checking in today. And I see my man Flex. Flex is a wrestling guy. He wanted me to get in. He says, Zander is on board, finally. Is there like a show? Did anybody make a show of like behind the scenes, like a Hard Knocks for WWE or anything like that?
Well, Netflix is going to do it.
I'm sure they will. Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to, it's already in the plan, so to speak. They've already started. So I don't know when it's going to come out, but yeah. And they've done tons of documentaries with behind the scenes. They do a WrestleMania thing every year where they go behind the scenes. They've done tons of it over the years.
Yeah, good stuff. Let's get to our commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this Eagles-Packers game. Dive into that as we've done all show today. I'll take a couple more super chats if we got them. Let me make sure I got them all. Flexen says NFL is king, but WWE is right behind him. Actually, Flex, I think the WWE might right now be bigger than the NFL in terms of, I know that they have like the biggest YouTube presence in the world.
Yeah,
the biggest
they do.
YouTube channel in the world.
Well, they're much bigger internationally than the NFL.
Right.
Here, it's not the NFL is king, but in other countries, a lot of people have difficulty understanding what the hell NFL football is, to be honest. And that's what they're trying to grow, the international. WWE is sort of, if you think about it, baby face versus heel, good versus evil. It's very easy and understandable for anybody anywhere across the world. So, I mean, they go everywhere. They're very popular internationally.
Look at Amber. Amber, he says, playoff week, and you're talking about professional wrestling. Amber, we do a 2-hour show. It's been 84 seconds, my guy. Relax, all right? Yeah. Relax. We'll get to the football.
Well, that's, Amber's, no offense, Amber, but that's the type of guy like, Kellen Moore's got to be focused. Can't shovel the snow.
Yeah.
Got to be focused on the Packers 24/7.
I didn't realize how many wrestling fans that we have that watch. How many wrestling fans do we have that watch Birds 365? I think there's a big overlapping audience. Kenny Sprague says, soon to be 17-time world champ John Cena. I'll tell you what, I know wrestling fans like John Cena. So. He looked old to me.
Well, he is old compared to what he was been.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's sorry, losing my voice. There's a lot of star power when Dwayne Johnson and John Cena show up on the same show.
That's true. That is true. Good stuff. Appreciate everybody checking in. Let's get to our commercial break. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go check them out and use the promo code you see on your screen. It's YouTube 150. I'll give you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So go to betus.com.pa, and a big thanks to them for sponsoring the 2-hour show today on Birds 365. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. It's playoff week, everybody. Wild card round this weekend. Eagles versus Packers. Sunday, 4:25. It's now do or die, John. The stuff we've been waiting for all year is coming to a head this weekend. I can feel the excitement in the air building, Johnny Mac. I can't believe we made it through the regular season already. It went by so quick for me.
Yeah, it's tourney time, so to speak. That's why the NCAA tournament's so popular, because you have these upsets and these, because any given Sunday in the NFL, or in this case, any given Saturday, Sunday, Monday, yeah, I mean, and when you do lose, if you do lose, and there's only one team that's going to win their final game, it's always, deflating when it happens. And you're walking off after one of these types of games. So, yeah, it's what makes the NFL what it is. Close games, last second, last possession, big plays. It's why everybody slogs through the 75 bubble screens for that excitement at the end of the game.
Yep, that's true. Johnny Mac, this is courtesy of Reuben Frank, but Eagles are going to play the Packers, obviously, as we all know, and we're all getting ready for now. But 3 times the Eagles have played the Packers in the postseason. All right, and this is courtesy, like I said, of Reuben Frank. And he says, each game has had a wild finish. So if you're an Eagle fan for a long time, you'll enjoy this throwback here. In 1960, the Eagles beat the Packers 17-13 in the NFL championship game at Franklin Field, clinching the win when Chuck Bednarik tackled Jim Taylor at the 9-yard line on the final play of the game. So a little Chuck Bednarik throwback, Johnny Mac, a little 1960 Eagles NFL championship game.
Hall of Famers, Jim Taylor as well. So there you go.
Yep, there you go. In 2003, Eagles faced the Packers in the conference semifinal round at the Link. And the legendary, many know this, many comment this play all the time, the legendary 4th and 26 conversion from Donovan McNabb to Freddie Mitchell.
Yeah.
B-Docs overtime.
I remember I was watching that game with a Packers fan in Minnesota at the time. Yeah, he did not take it well.
I love this. I was hoping somebody would have this. Mario checks in 4th and 26. Brett X, I was there. I love it. And Brian also, I was at that game. I love it. I was hoping that we would have some people that would check in and say that.
Well, I'll say this. A phenomenal play, obviously, in Eagles history. You don't want to be in 4th and 26 with the game on the line. Let's hope that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, you do not. You know what? It reminds me of just the Bama in me. The Bama in me, it reminds me of, there's a famous play in Bama land, John, and it's not 4th and 26, but it's 2nd and 26. Tua Tagovailoa, after replacing Jalen Hurts in overtime, takes a 16-yard sack on 1st down. And remember, in overtime in college, you start like at, what is the 25?
25.
Yeah, the 25. So he takes a 16-yard sack. And then the very next play, he beats Georgia to Devontae Smith, our guy, and wins the national title game. I was at Alabama.
Well, this year, I mean, already Texas was dead and buried against Arizona State. And I think they converted 4th and 15, maybe in overtime. So, yeah. But you never want to be in those situations.
No, you do not. You do not. But when you complete them, they make for famous plays. Like I just mentioned, the Eagles' famous 4th and 26 play, and the Tua 2nd and 26 to Devontae Smith. And in the final meeting, John, the Packers got the better of the Eagles. So they're 2-1 in playoffs, the Eagles versus the Packers. In 2010, Packers beat the Eagles in a wild card game at the Link when Michael Vick inexplicably tried to thread a pass to rookie Riley Cooper in the end zone on a 1st and 10 with 44 seconds left in the game on the line. Tramon Williams made the easiest interception of his career, clinching the 21-16 Packers win. So last time these two teams met in the playoffs, the Packers won at the Link in the wild card round. So good history for these two teams, John. I like it, man.
You know what Nick Serianni would say if that's brought up to him? What does that have to do with
What does that have to do with anything? Yeah, I just wanted to do it because I know we have a lot of fans who, who like to think about all those things. And, that's part of being a fan, John, is you remember all the time, the good and the bad.
Objectively, it doesn't matter.
No, it does not. I agree with that.
To this particular matchup, other than what I said, you don't want to be on 4th and 26.
No, you don't want to be. No, you do not. You do not want to be 4th and 26. John, I was asking this question, and my man Clary Boy brings it up. I mentioned it on the post-game show, and I was talking to some of the great people of JAKIB Nation. What's your biggest concern about the Eagles going into the playoffs right now, John? It could be a player, it could be a coach, it can be a style of play, it can be anything. What's your biggest concern that you have going into Eagles versus Packers, that if this comes to fruition, they could lose the football game to the Packers?
Boy, not a lot of concerns with this team, to be honest. But my biggest concern is, can they win? It's been the same all year. Can they outscore somebody if they have to? So I guess if we want to boil it down, it's the quarterback. Not because of concussion protocol. As I always say, Jim Schwartz says all the time, games have personalities. Big Fangio just said it a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Every game goes a little bit different. There are some games that are just going to be shootouts, and that's the way the personality develops. If anybody could figure it out, stop it, they do it. They can't. If you have to win a 40-35 game, a 38-35 game, can you do it? Talent-wise, there's no reason the Eagles shouldn't be able to do it. Can they do it? I don't know.
Well, I don't fear that as much with the Packers, because I think our defense is going to be able to hold them to 20, 25 points, somewhere in that range. Maybe a little bit more, but I don't expect them to put up 30 plus. You go up against
I saw that team score 28 points in the fourth quarter.
Well, they're certainly capable of it, John, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it.
They're capable of it.
Capable, yeah.
I'm saying nobody scores. Then you get the morons that say, when you talk about Detroit, we get well, they scored 20 against. Yeah, games have personalities. Could go the other direction. If I'm talking about those particular teams, can they win that type of game? I'm talking about this team. Can they win the shootout? So it's baked in to, they're not going to score 20-25. They're going to score 35. Can they win that game? That's my concern with that. That's my biggest concern.
Right.
Other people, I don't care about.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, if you go up against the Lions, dude, they're scoring 30 points. I am convinced that it doesn't matter what you throw at them defensively, they're going to figure out how to get 30 points on the board.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, the Eagles should be able to win that type of game. I don't know if they can, but they should be able to win it.
They should. Good stuff there. Can John just real quick clarify? Sedan, he might be new to not new to the show, but just checked in. Is Hurts playing? Hurts will be all right, brother. We promise you. I'm giving you the information John's giving me, but it certainly, I'm told he will be all good. So don't worry about it, Sedan. We will see what happens with it. Clary,
there's so much misinformation. I put that on Twitter yesterday. Anybody wants to go check it out at JF McMullen? I'll retweet it now. I put the whole return to play protocol of the NFL. So for all the people that are saying, why isn't he cleared? Why isn't he cleared? Hasn't practiced. That's how they're slow playing it. You can't be cleared. They've done it purposefully. He will be cleared. He will be cleared.
9 out of 10. We're almost at our super chat goal. Big thanks to all you guys. Clary Void checks in, John. He says, my concern is less Hurts and Elliott, but more. Kellen has called terrible games in the playoffs. At least the other two have done it. That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look at Kellen Moore's playoff games, but I certainly know, Clary Void, we have enough Dallas resident Cowboy fans in our chat that tell us all the time that Kellen Moore is going to choke when the lights get the brightest. So I'd have to go and look, but that's an interesting take by you.
There's only the only people that get more blame for playoff losses. Well, I guess so here's how it goes. Officials, play callers, then players. It should go the opposite. It should go players,
Right.
play callers, referees. I don't. Kellen Moore's not going to lose this game. The players are going to lose this game if they lose this game. Players are going to win this game if they win this game.
This is where I am on the officiating. I'm so with you that who gives a shit because every team deals with it. But from a macro perspective, can we at least agree that officiating in the league as a whole freaking sucks? I'm not saying I'm going to complain.
No,
about
I'm the opposite. I think these fucking guys do an amazing job.
Well,
what's put on their
I don't think
plate.
it's their fault. I think it's the NFL's fault. But
I would say people don't complain about officiating. They're complaining about the legislation. They don't like the rules. When I do watch a game, I'm always amazed how much they get right. Like I'll look at a play in live action and go, "Oh, that's a bad spot," and sure enough, it's a good spot. Or, and I'm not saying
that
they
I
get
agree.
every.
Sometimes
And I'm not sure that I'm not saying they get every spot right. Same thing with guys dragging their feet. I'm like, oh, there's no way he's in bounds. There's no way they didn't bobble that ball. Sure enough, they get it right. I'm actually amazed by how much they get right. But beyond that, they complain about the rules, which I'm with 100%. I hate so much of the over legislation. But by what they're supposed to do, they do a really good job. A really good job. And I really believe that. And I'm sorry if that upsets people. You're upset at the rules, and I'm with you. Like taunting, shit like that. It's what they're supposed to do. I don't like it either.
Right. That's fair. Eduardo checks in for today's goal. Thank you, man. Thank both of you guys. Daniel says for the Kang goal. So we had a super chat goal, 10 for $5. Thank you guys, man. We hit the goal. Appreciate you guys as always, man. We have the best viewers in the world. So big thanks to you guys. Kenny Sprague checks in. He says, here's to hitting the super chat goal. Always wondered what John is clicking constantly. John is a mouse user. You can hear it. I told John, people can hear it. He said, I don't give a shit who hears what.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes I have to look at sites and look at what's going on.
I got like 80 tabs open at all times.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know how
actually, if people saw my setup, the reason when I'm looking this way, I got my producing computer here, I got my camera here, I got a laptop here, and an iPad here. I got all
right now. I got Green Bay stats up. I got Green Bay's depth chart up. I got Zander was talking about cornerback, so I was looking up the cornerback rankings. Yeah, I mean, all of this stuff. Yeah, got to continually keep it going. I'm not looking at wrestling stuff or untoward stuff, if that's people's mind in the dirt.
No, I know you're not doing that. Eduardo says, for the goal, go Birds. Thank you, Eduardo. You're the man, brother. I appreciate that very much. Man, we appreciate you guys for all the support today. All right, Johnny Mac, 8 minutes left on the show today. What is on the agenda in Eagle Land today? Who are we talking to down at the NovaCare complex? And I know we're not going to get an update on Jalen Hurts, but people are going to want one. They're not going to get it.
No, well, I wish people would understand. You're not, first of all, you are not allowed to discuss which part of the protocol players are in. That is now Nick Serianni could offer more information that he does, but you are literally not permitted to talk about what stage a player is in the protocol, because they don't want to create pressure on players going through concussions. So you cannot do that as an organization. No team can do it. Again, at JF McMullen, you can go. I just put it up again. I gave you all 5 phases of the concussion protocol. Phase 5 is full football activity clearance. Upon clearance by the club physician for full football activity involving contact, the player must be examined by an independent neurological consultant assigned to his club. If the INC concurs with the club physician that the player's concussion has resolved, he may participate in the club's next practice or game. I'm very confident that's where the Eagles are. They're just waiting to get back on. They're not practicing on Saturday. He's already out of the game. They're not practicing on Monday. They're not practicing today. They will practice on Wednesday. Again, right now, it's scheduled to be a regular practice. If he is not on the field for that practice, all right, we can all gather on Thursday here and start panicking. I don't expect that to be the case. Now, also, if you go back to last week on Wednesday, their regularly scheduled practice, and at the last minute, they scaled it back to a walkthrough. If they do that again, then Thursday is the key day. Either way, if he's not on the field by one of those 2 days, then you can feel free to get on the Walt Whitman or your favorite bridge and contemplate your mortality. I don't want you to do that. And some people will be thrilled with Tanner McKee if Kenny Pickett can't play. Nobody will be thrilled with Kenny Pickett, but I digress. But I am 99% certain that Jalen Hurts is going to start against the Green Bay Packers.
99% certain. That's about as good as you're going to get. I'm with my guy, Sadon. Sadon, I don't know if you're new to the channel, but I appreciate your comments. He says, I love our team, but when Nick does his pressers, it makes my head throb. I am completely with you, man. He is tough to listen to sometimes.
Yeah, I think he's good sometimes, but bad if you're just going to ask about injuries. And look, I've stopped asking about injuries, and I'm thankful for certain people that ask about injuries.
Because it's a necessary evil.
Because it's necessary to get them on the record, but I'm not going to burn a question for it. So I'm thankful for those people. I know somebody will do it. A lot of times Olivia takes the bullet. Zach took the bullet yesterday. So hat tip to them.
I feel like Elliot does a lot too.
Elliot, anybody who does it, God bless you. You're doing God's work, but I'm not going to do it because I know what's coming. Yeah. But Nick's good if you ask him at certain things. Like I mentioned last week, I asked him about, because of the game and what was going to go on, I asked him about the developmental program and Connor Barwin running that, and he gave some good answers. You know, but you got to ask questions that are thematic, not is so-and-so going to play? I need that for my fantasy football team. You know, you're not going to answer that shit. And you know, could he be more Andy? Nobody liked Andy Reid, but Andy at least would come and start with, all right, here's the injuries. And then go into, I got to do a better job. Which would you prefer? I don't know. I'd prefer Nick, but.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, one more thing I want to talk about. And Joseph brings it up. Joseph, thank you, man. I don't know. Depending on what weather app you use. One of my weather apps says 10 inches on Saturday. One says 3 inches. We could have a snow game, Johnny Mac, on Sunday. How do you think
I think it's going to be
the game?
Yeah, I saw John Belaris, old buddy, tweeting. Yeah, there's the potential for a big snowstorm, but that'll be Saturday, not Sunday. It'll be fine. We'll be fine. Saturday. And by the way, this is a game where, Green Bay's not going to be. Green Bay's not going to be affected by weather.
No, but I think the game is naturally, right? Like it changes how teams play.
Yeah, you know? Well, of course, if it's windy, wind is probably the biggest thing. And anything that can affect the game. So
I think it affects Jalen Hurts.
Wind affects everybody.
No, I know, but I mean, in particular, if you have a snow game, if you have a weather game, I think the person that could be most affected by that could be Jalen Hurts.
I don't know why.
I don't think he's. I think he needs better conditions to be able to throw the ball effectively.
Trying to think of snow. There's not been a ton of snow games. I haven't noticed Jalen not playing well in weather games. Kansas City game last year was shitty, different reasons. Yeah, I
The only weather game we've had this year was Tampa, and it was not this type of. It was the opposite. It was a hot game.
Oh, that yeah. I think people they never call those games. In fact, I
know you talked about that on the show. Credit to you.
They never call those those are weather games. Those are bigger deals than 35 degrees, which it's scheduled to be, or somewhere around there. Everybody talks about bad weather, snow, and which is obvious. That's a weather game. But those hot games, man.
Yeah, they're tough.
Yeah, that really affects guys more than, again, 35 degrees and sunny. But I would say with winter weather games, wind is the biggest issue.
Bombay says he still has a tan from that game. Good stuff, Bombay. Appreciate that. Amber says snow would be beneficial. Saquon and Jalen running the ball is their strength. That's a good point. I don't expect to pass the ball well, but I guess if it's snow, you're going to be more reliant on the run anyway. Seth Shifley checks in. He says, great show as always, guys. I'll be at the game to support my Eagles. Excited to see some good playoff football. Packers are just off this year. Well, I don't know about that, but they're not closing out strong. They're not playing their best football.
They were supposed to be better than they were, but they still won 11 games. I would say, look, if there's one team, I mean, Green Bay plays in the snow all the freaking time and the cold all the time. I mean, it's not going to affect them whatsoever. There's not going to be an advantage for the Eagles in any weather situation. There might not be a disadvantage, but no team is better prepared to play in the weather than Green Bay. That's just natural. I mean, they do it every year consistently.
Good stuff, everybody. Appreciate everybody today on the show. We still got a good crowd in here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us, guys. We're up to 130 right now. Can we get to 150 before the final music plays? That would be great. Johnny Mac, any final thoughts on the show today, brother? Before we let you go, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Birds 365 in the morning.
Yeah, we'll get some coordinator action. I'm sure Kellen Moore will give us all the info on his upcoming interview. I'm joking.
Kellen Moore's not going to give shit about shit.
That is sarcasm for those who don't get it. Vic Fangio about his number one defense, the first number one defense in the storied career of Vic Fangio. How about that?
Impressive, man. And he did it with I don't think he did it with all superstars everywhere. You know, they look like superstars now, but it's not like we were coming in.
I would have laughed at you. I would have laughed out loud if you said the Eagles were going to have the number one defense in the NFL in August. I would have said, come on. I would have given you a stop it.
You would have given me the eagle colored glasses. Stop it. Like you did when I predicted 14 wins, John.
Stop it.
Good stuff, J-Mac. Appreciate you doing it.
By the way, you're going to be wrong if they win.
What do you mean?
They're going to be up to 15. Yeah.
That's true. Well, I'm good with being wrong for that, but we'll see how it plays out. John, great show, man. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Hit that like button on your way out. Johnny Mac, good show, man. We'll catch you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow. Hit that like button on your way out.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.